Hello and welcome to the Horsemanship and Mindset podcast with your host, Kimberly Dunn of Idlewild Horsemanship and Mindset Coaching. This podcast is here to bring you the very best in tips, tricks, and advice to help you better understand yourself, your mindset, and your horse, because your horsemanship starts with you. Let's go. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horsemanship and Mindset podcast. As always, I am delighted to have you here and I hope you've had a wonderful week. So, this week's episode is inspired by a conversation I had with a client this week. And by the time I'd finished ranting about it, I was like, oh my God, I need to record a podcast episode about this. So, here we are. Lucky you. So this week, I am going to be talking about lunging. More specifically, lunging your horse if they're fresh, or lunging your horse to take the edge off, or lunging your horse because you've got in the arena and they're feeling a little fruity. Okay. So I'm here today to just bust a few myths about this, because this is yet another thing that we as equestrians are conditioned into doing. If our horse is fresh, let's just lunge and lunge and lunge them until they're sweating, until they're puffing, and then it's okay to get on. But in doing this, we are missing so many key things here that actually would result in a better connection with your horse and a better session with your horse. And it's important for me to say at this point, because it's really, really important to me in what I do, that I educate and inspire and do not alienate people. So in what I'm talking about today, if I do get a bit ranty, please know that this is like, if you are someone who has come to this podcast and you do lunge because your horse is fresh, I don't want you to think that I'm having a go at you. I am just trying to open up everyone's minds a bit to understand that actually there is another way that actually is more effective, and why lunging your horse to take the edge off isn't very effective, and actually can make things worse. And please know, I have been there. Like, I used to be that person that would lunge a horse to take the edge off, or because they're fresh, or because I think they need, riding down a bit before you can get anything out of them. That kind of mindset with it. And again, it's not correct. So let's have a look then at busting this myth that lunging fixes behaviour and showing what actually creates a calmer and more connected horse, and human for that matter. So lunging to tire out a horse is basically you trying to outrun their nervous system, because the more you chase energy, so you're chasing it, come on, you want to keep going, go on then, if you're fresh today, off you go, you can run around. Like, that chasing energy creates more energy, and you might get some temporary obedience from your horse because they're like, oh flipping heck, all right, but you're not going to get a regulated, calm, thinking horse that's connected, that is responsive, that you actually want. Because that's what we want from a session, don't we? We want a horse that's calm, that's relaxed, that's listening, that's with us, so we feel like we're working together as a partnership. But actually what happens when you get in the arena and you immediately send them out on the lunge, and I've seen this so much. I've seen this in places I've worked. I've seen this in places I've taught clinics. I've seen this in places that I've visited. And you see people like at shows or at clinics, or like lunge, getting the horse out. The horse, it walks into the arena, and I can see it like in my mind's eye so clearly. A person walks into the arena. The horse is like, oh, woohoo, where are we? This is exciting. Their head's up in the air. Their nostrils are flared. Their eyes are like wide open, and they're probably whinnying like, woohoo, this is great. And then the person just lets them go out on the lunge. The horse flies around on the lunge, immediately just buggers off on the lunge. They're flying around, they're shouting their head off, their head's turned to the outside. They have absolutely no idea where their human is and probably couldn't care less. And they're just flying around. Okay. And then what happens? Everyone else in the arena, generally their horses all go mental. Then if there's anybody else lunging their horses, everybody, because the energy in the room just goes boom. Whereas, so you have that, okay? So you've got this horse, it's running around on the lunge, it's maybe bucking, farting, doing that thing, where they get their bums underneath them and they really go pew round. That's not calming them down, is it? All you're doing is making your horse fitter, sweatier, and you might be tiring them out in the short term, but long term, again, you're just making them fitter. Okay. There is a difference. So the caveat here is if you have a horse that is stuck in and isn't able to move, hasn't got any freedom for whatever reason, there is time and room for allowing them to have a little buck and a fart on the lunge. But I will bring that caveat in a moment as to how you can go about that again, so you maintain connection and you allow your horse to be a bit footloose and fancy free as well. If they're not allowed, if they can't do that in the field, because they should be doing all of that in the field, really. That's the whole point of them going out and being with their friends, is that they have the freedom to run around and buck and fart all they like, Anywho, so we've got this horse that's running around in the arena. So the horse is not connected to the human for a start. The horse is heads turned to the outside. They're not really listening. They're just flying around. It's very likely if the horse has been stuck in, they're going to cause themselves an injury from doing this. The horse is sweaty. The horse is puffing. By the time you finish lunging, they're probably stood there puffing. But are they connected to the human? Probably not. Okay. So to bring a little sciencey bit in, stress obviously creates adrenaline, and adrenaline creates more movement, a need for movement. Movement on a tight circle, physical tension, and mental tension. Okay. So you're basically in this moment trying to fix anxiety with more anxiety. All right. Hopefully that's making sense so far. So why we do it and how that kind of makes sense until it doesn't is generally we'll get in the arena. So let's say now, so we come back to this horse that's just arrived at this place. Let's look at the human that's on the end of the lead rope. The human is like, oh, flipping heck. Oh my God. The horse is turning into a dragon. Oh my God, there's people around here. There's people going to be looking at me. I'm here with this mental horse. I'm probably going to fall off because this horse, if I get on right now, we're just not going to be in control. So we have things like the fear of being out of control. Maybe you've had a past fall after you got on your horse without lunging them first. Maybe you don't trust your horse at all. You're worried about feeling watched or being judged, and you want to do something quick, quote unquote, to help you feel safe. Okay? But what is important to understand is that this is a kind of your own mental subconscious safety strategy, but it's not actually a training strategy. It's kind of like, it's another one of those, like just putting sticking plaster on. Because so your horse is looking a bit crackers. So if I lunge them, it's going to tire them out. And then they might be less likely to then have a buck and a fart. Generally, again, there isn't that connection there with you, the human. Okay. So here is the shift for you. And again, please know I'm not coming for you. I'm not telling you that you are wrong or you are bad. I mean, ultimately, this is my own opinion here. I don't write the rules. So you can take this or not take this, but please know that it's coming from a place of trying to help everyone. Okay, so let's look at what actually works. So what we need to think about doing is shifting from exhaustion to regulation. Now, if you're new here, there are so many podcast episodes about regulation. So just have a little scroll through and it'll give you a greater understanding of that. If you're not new here, you know what I'm talking about. So what we need to get from our horses is regulation before movement. connection before we get that kind of, we don't want obedience from our horses. We want connection. We want responsiveness, and we want responsiveness over our horses just being tired. So they're more pliable because they're tired. That is connection. It's connection because your horse is responsive rather than obedience because your horse is so tired. Does that make sense? So let's go through a little scenario then that's going to help you. Okay. So I generally will teach these things a lot, like inside the Enlightened Equestrian program or at clinics, or in lessons. So if any of these things that I'm about to talk about aren't familiar to you, there's loads of YouTube videos about them, or you can ask if you've got like a Western or a horsemanship trainer, you can ask them about them and they will tell you, I'm sure. So I generally will have some kind of, if this is me in the scenario, I have like a pattern that I would work through, a groundwork pattern that is practiced at home, that the horse, when they're in a calm environment, knows all this stuff. And so when they're in a not calm environment, you can then put them in the pattern and they're like, this is familiar. So this is going to help to calm me. Not only that, in these things that you do, you are allowing movement. So your horse is able to move through that tension that they might be feeling, that kind of excited energy that they might be feeling. So they are still moving and dissipating it, but in a more controlled manner. So you are keeping them at a regulated level instead of letting them fly around, tipped over into, whoopee, flipping all over the place mode. Okay. So things like, first of all, I would walk around with the horse. I would walk around wherever you are. I would do things like, so that's just, straightforward. You're not really asking anything too mentally, what's the word, challenging for them. You are literally just getting them to move their feet. So walking around side by side, I would bring in my gears because this is something I bloody love to do and to teach, which is basically you're walking around with them. You have a first gear, a second gear, and a third gear. So let's walk slow. Let's walk a normal pace. Let's walk fast. Let's walk slow. Let's walk medium. Let's walk fast. And then mix it up and then add in some stops and add in some backups, add in some changes of direction, add in some circles, add in some figures of 8. Okay. And all of that allows your horse to move. You're changing things up. And so their focus is coming to you because you're changing things. And they're like, okay, what's going to happen next? Okay. So that's really good. Also, you are moving your feet too. So you are also regulating yourself. It's a win-win. Okay. So I always would start off with that. Then I would do things like move the hindquarters around. So hindquarter disengage a couple of times one way, a couple of times the other way. I'd ask for a couple of backups. I'd move their shoulders around. So a bit of shoulders away, shoulders towards, maybe a bit of side pass, maybe some direct bends. So direct bends where you ask the horse to tip their nose around to you so they're getting that bend through the neck. All of those exercises, getting your horse to move their body laterally, bringing in some bend, also brings in relaxation. So you're engaging their mind, you're engaging their body, and you're also doing bendy things that are going to help bring in relaxation in the body. Okay. Connection. All the time you are communicating with your horse. At no point are you saying, right, off you go. You're with your horse. You are together. Okay. So walk around with them, change gears, change direction, bring in some stops and backups, then move their body around, allow pauses in what you're doing. I'm going to talk more about pausing next week on the podcast, but doing things like stopping, allowing them to have a lick and a chew, allowing them to blink, allowing them to take a moment to yawn. Okay. So then you've moved them around. You know where they're at. They're more connected to you at this point. Then, if you still feel like you want to send them out, but have ground rules, okay? You can go out, but in walk. If you're going to do anything else, I'm going to disengage you and stop you. You can go out, you can walk around to the left, change direction, walk around to the right, ask them to trot, same thing, trot to the left, trot to the right. And then if you still feel like, okay, they are quite energetic, right, let's bring in some gears in your trot then. So we're going to have you trot slow, medium, fast. Now let's have you canter. By the time you get, because you've changed things up too much, because you've had so many transitions within a gait already, by the time you ask for canter, you should have a fairly relaxed canter. If they still have a buck and a fart, at this point, they are warmed up, and the chances are it will be one or two and that's it. And then bring them back down. So all the time you were asking of things. You're not just letting them go and go and go and go and go and wind themselves up even more. You all the time are communicating with them, allowing pauses, changing things up. And can you see now, like, how much more is going on there? How much more of a conversation you're having with your horse than getting in somewhere, getting into the arena or wherever you are, and then just saying, right, off you go, get away, go on. And then they go around you and they're on their own and they're just flying round and that's it. And they're going round and round and round. The difference in one to the other. And this one that I'm giving you with all the ideas, like, none of that stuff is difficult. If you train it when they're relaxed, none of that stuff is difficult. It's all pretty easy. And even if you just bring in one or two of those things, they will make a difference. Okay. So just an important note with that is you're not trying to drain the energy here. You're trying to organize it. So look at how much more organized it is when you add in this, and this to their warm up instead of the other. So you're organizing the energy instead of trying to drain it. All right. And one results in more connection. One doesn't. In my humble opinion. In my opinion, but also in my experience, in my 20 years experience. Okay, which makes me feel very old. So, and what happens here when you do this is that when you stop trying to burn the fizz off your horse and actually start helping the horse to come back into their body, that's where everything changes. That's where you don't have to keep lunging for flipping ages. That's where you have a shorter ride time because it's better quality. And that's where you have a horse who starts seeking connection and relaxation instead of avoiding it and avoiding you. All right. And that is where you have a person, a you, who feels safe because you know how to regulate energy, not run from it or not push it out and hope for the best by the time you come to get on. The other really great thing about having like a little routine like that is then if you come into an arena and you have a routine of, right, okay, we're going to have a walk around, we're going to just do some bending, we're going to just do some lateral stuff, you get a feel for how your horse is feeling as well. So if you're one of those people that you go to get on your horse and you don't know what's going to happen, by the time you've done some groundwork with them before you get on, you do know what's going to happen because you know how your horse is feeling. And by the time you get on them, because you've done that work, you feel more connected. They are more connected with you. You are together. You are a partnership. So I hope all of that makes sense. I knew I would get a bit ranty about it, but I feel quite passionately about it because, mainly because I worked at a place a few years ago in Europe that was like a top, like super duper top level Western training facility that had hundreds of thousands of euros worth of horses in it. And I mean, each horse was worth hundreds of thousands of euros. It was insane. And my mind would be blown every time because sometimes we would get asked to lunge the horses and I would go into the massive, giant, beautiful arena and so would the other grooms. And these horses have been stuck in. It's cold. It was really cold there. And they would just let the horses go. So the horse has been in the stable, walked to the arena. They've been in the stable all night, walked to the arena, and then they just let them go. And these horses would immediately like piss off, bucking, farting, and fly around like absolute nutters. So they go from 0 to that. And I just used to think, like, aside from, all this connection stuff, like that is hundreds of thousands worth of euros of horse there that you are just allowing to injure themselves because they've been inside all night, and it just blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. But it used to really wind me up, and I used to really make a point of the horse I had. I was like, "You are not doing this. This is not happening with you and I. We are going to be controlled. We are going to be calm. We are not having any silliness." And let me tell you, it took time. Because the trouble is these horses were then conditioned to that. That's what happened. You get in the arena, if you're attached to a lunge line, see you later. And so it took a lot of time, and it took, I have to say, also a bit of what's the word? Not bravery, but I had to like put my brave girl pants on sometimes because these horses want to go. And but I made a point of making it happen because I was not having a horse on my watch hurt themselves or be that disconnected from a human. It's not what it's about. But anyway, that's the whole of the story. But it just blows my mind that that's how that's how they were conditioned, the humans. That's what they thought was right. The trainers certainly didn't care about it, which also blew my mind. But like when you come from a background where that's the norm, you just don't think anything of it, do you? And I know that before I'd kind of got into this horsemanship stuff and connection stuff, like it was the norm for me as well. And now I know better. And that's why I'm trying to help everyone else to kind of, understand things a bit more. So all of that is to say, I hope by now you are understanding the difference between just letting your horse go and off they go and do blah de blah, or okay, let's do a bit of groundwork first. Then you can go out, and we're going to have this. We're going to have some order to this. We're going to have some clarity here. We're going to have some boundaries, and then yeah. So I hope all of that makes sense. And if this did hit home, or if you know anybody that needs to hear this, please share it. If you do share it on your stories or anything, please tag me. If you are not already subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe. And exciting news, everyone. Oh my God. So the book, I've talked about this before, but it's coming. The book is coming. So I am awaiting today, on the day of recording, the proof should be arriving today, which is just insane. So by the time you listen to this, you may or may not have seen me like crying on my stories because I'm opening the proof of the book, because I can't believe it. I cannot believe that I've been writing it all year, and now it's gonna be an actual book. Oh my God. Anyway, so yes. So all being well, hopefully I don't have to make any adjustments to it. Oh God. I've not had fun with this whole technical side of it, let me tell you. Anyway, it's going to be out on the 9th of December. The book is called The Equestrian's Guide to Confidence and Connection, and it lands on the 9th of December. And trust me, it goes way deeper into this work. It is basically, it's a guide for equestrians, funnily enough, about confidence and connection. But it takes you through all the steps to help you improve your confidence and your connection to your horse. There are journal prompts in there. There's different exercises, there's different bits of knowledge. I'm also sharing just some stories from my time with horses in there, just to, keep it relatable. And so you can read it and think, yeah, okay, well, I once felt like that. Or, just to give you a bit more understanding, because it's really important to me that this book is not boring. And that it's not just all facts, and I want it to be a nice, fun, easy read that really truly gives you a better understanding of yourself and helps you improve your confidence and just enjoy your horse again. So yeah, that is exciting. So stay tuned for that. I will obviously talk about it again next week as we get closer to the release. Oh my goodness. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for listening. I hope this episode was helpful to you, and I will see you in the next one.